I'm the guy who keeps receipts until the return window closes. I track our spending in a boring little spreadsheet, and I've never carried a credit card balance longer than a month. My wife, Emily, calls it my accounting prayer candle. If the numbers are tidy, I feel like life is tidy. We're not rich. We're fine. A small house in a Midwest suburb, 2 kids, 1 minivan that makes a new noise every season. I'm steady, responsible, in control. That's why, when the first letter arrived with foreign stamps and my name typed in all caps, I assumed it was a scam and tossed it on the counter with the junk mail. Then a second letter came, and a third, all from a law office in Kyiv with an English translation stapled to the back. The subject line was the same every time: notice of heirship, and my calm started to feel less like control and more like denial. I opened the third one because it included a U.S. return number and a copy of a passport photo, an older man with a sharp nose and tired eyes. The letter said he'd died the previous month and had named me in his will. It included an estate file number, a notary's name, and a list of assets in cold bullet points: an apartment, a bank account, equity holdings, and something described as a beneficial interest in a family trust. I reread the paragraph where it claimed, in plain English, that I was an heir. I didn't know this man. I didn't have family in Ukraine. My mom was born in Ohio. My dad, my real dad, the one who raised me, was a retired electrician who spent weekends restoring lawnmowers and watching baseball too loud. Emily found me at the table with the letter spread out like a crime scene. "What is that?" she asked. I said carefully, "Apparently I inherited something from a stranger." She laughed, then saw my face and stopped. "How much?" I hated that my first thought was the same question. I called the number on the letter expecting a recording. Instead, I got a woman with a crisp accent who introduced herself as Oksana, an assistant at the notary's office. She knew my full name, my date of birth, and the last 4 of my social security number. That detail made my skin go cold. Scams don't usually have that. She explained that the deceased, Danilo K., had listed me as son in the will. She said it the way someone reads from a form, not like she was dropping a bomb into my life. I corrected her immediately. "I'm not his son." There was a pause. Then she said, "Sir, I am sorry. The documents indicate paternity." Emily sat across from me, arms crossed, watching my face. I tried to keep my voice steady. "What does the will say the estate is worth?" Oksana didn't give an exact number, but she said, "In U.S. dollars, mid-7 figures, depending on sale." My heart didn't leap, clenched. Money that big doesn't feel like a gift. Feels like a trap. I told myself there was a rational explanation. Name mix-up, paperwork error, some weird coincidence. So I called my mom. She answered cheerful, like always. "Hi, honey. Everything okay?" I asked, "Do you know anyone named Danilo K?" Silence. Not the normal let me think silence. The kind of silence where a person decides whether to lie. "I haven't heard that name in years," she said. My stomach dropped. "Years?" She exhaled like a balloon deflating. "Where is this coming from?" I told her about the letters. I kept it factual, calm, like the way you'd describe a car problem to a mechanic. Mom said, very quietly, "Don't involve your father." That was twist number 1. The stranger wasn't a clerical error. My mother knew him, and she'd been hoping I'd never hear his name again. 2 days later, my mom drove to my house in the middle of a workday, which she never does. She looked older than I remembered. Her hands shook when she accepted the coffee Emily offered. "I didn't cheat on your father," she said immediately, like she'd been rehearsing that line for years. I didn't say anything. My throat felt tight. She told me a story I'd never heard. A summer in the early 80s, a brief relationship with a visiting graduate student from Ukraine, a breakup, and then, months later, she met my dad and decided to start fresh. "I didn't know I was pregnant until after he left," she said. "And then your father, he was good. He wanted you. He signed the birth certificate. He raised you. That's what matters." "What matters?" I asked, and my voice cracked despite my best efforts. Or what was convenient? Mom flinched. Emily put a hand on my arm, gentle, like I was a dog about to bolt. Mom said, Danilo tried to contact me once. He sent money. I sent it back. How much? Emily asked, sharper than she meant to. Mom swallowed. Enough. That night, Emily and I lay in bed staring at the ceiling like we were listening for intruders. She said, if this is real, we could pay off the mortgage. College. We could. Stop, I said. Too fast. Too loud. Then softer. I don't want to plan my life around money from a man I didn't know, tied to a secret I didn't choose. Emily nodded, but I could tell her brain was already doing math the way mine usually does. Our kids' tuition. My student loans I'd never quite killed. Her mom's medical bills we'd been quietly helping with. Money doesn't just buy stuff. It rearranges relationships. It changes what people say out loud. I emailed the notary office and requested proof. I asked for the will, the paternity documents, the asset list, everything. Oksana replied within hours, attaching scans. A notarized will, a translated affidavit, and a copy of a DNA test result from a clinic I'd never heard of. The test listed me by name, and it said 99% probability of paternity. That was twist number 2. He hadn't guessed. He'd confirmed me. At some point, he'd gotten my DNA. I had no idea how. I spiraled into detective mode, because that's what I do when emotions get too loud. I dug through old files. I looked at my birth certificate. I called the hospital where I was born. I searched the clinic name from the scan and found it was real and affiliated with an American lab for international processing. Then I remembered something small and stupid. 2 years ago, I'd done one of those mail-in DNA kits as a Christmas gag gift from my sister. We all spit in tubes and compared percentages like it was a party trick. Emily asked, could he have matched with you through that? The idea made my skin crawl. A stranger watching my genetic profile like a stock ticker. I called the DNA company, sat on hold forever, and finally got a tired-sounding rep who said, we can't discuss other users. But could someone? I'm sorry, sir. I hung up and stared at my reflection in the dark laptop screen. I'd always thought of my identity as something solid. Husband, dad, homeowner, the responsible one. Now it felt like paperwork someone else had edited. The notary's office scheduled a video call. On screen, a stern man introduced himself as the notary. Behind him was an office that looked like every office, gray walls, files, fluorescent lighting, but with a small icon in the corner and a flag I recognized from news clips. He explained the estate like it was a math problem. Assets, beneficiaries, percentages. He said Danilo had no other acknowledged children, no spouse. His closest relatives were distant cousins who were contesting the will. Then he mentioned the condition. To receive the inheritance, I had to accept legal heirship as his son. That meant signing documents that would become public record in Ukraine and, through filings, discoverable in the U.S. Emily's eyes flicked to mine. She knew what I was thinking. My dad. The man who raised me. The man who still believed my mom's fresh start story. I asked, what happens if I decline? The notary said, then the estate passes to the next eligible heirs, and you receive nothing. The money dangled there like a hook. I drove to my parents' house alone. I sat in my truck for 10 minutes watching the porch light like it might give me instructions. My dad answered the door in sweatpants, smiling. Hey kiddo, what's up? Inside, the house smelled like old coffee and lemon cleaner. Familiar. Safe. I tried to keep my voice steady. Dad, I need to ask you something. Mom told you she was pregnant when you met? He blinked. Yeah, she said it was early, that you might have been, but I didn't care. My throat tightened. Did you ever have doubts? He shook his head slowly. I chose you. That's all I needed. I wanted to hate my mom right then. Instead, I felt a sick kind of love for my dad, mixed with guilt, like I'd been carrying a secret weapon in my chest my whole life. I told him about the letter, not the 7 figures, not the assets, just the fact that a man had died, claiming to be my biological father, and named me as heir. My dad sat down hard in his recliner like his joints suddenly failed him. He didn't cry. He just looked tired. After a long silence, he said, "How much money are we talking?" That question hurt worse than any yelling would have. When I told him mid-seven figures, my dad let out a low whistle, not impressed, just stunned. Then he said something that made my stomach twist. "Your mom sent money back," he said. "Years ago. I remember the envelope. I asked her. She said it was a mistake." I stared at him. "You knew?" He shook his head. "I knew someone sent something. I didn't know who. I didn't push because we had you. We had a life. I didn't want trouble." He looked at me with that steady, practical gaze he used when teaching me to change oil. "Son, money like that brings trouble anyway." That was twist number 3. My dad wasn't completely blind. He'd seen the edge of the secret and chose peace over truth. My stable childhood wasn't built on honesty. It was built on a mutual agreement not to look too closely. Emily, meanwhile, started getting calls from her sister. "You're inheriting millions? Is it real? Could you help Mom with the hospital bills?" She hadn't even met the notary. The money was already changing the way people spoke to us. I hired an estate attorney in the U.S. who specialized in international inheritance. He said things like cross-border compliance, sanction screening, and tax exposure, which sucked all fantasy out of the number. He asked if Danilo had any debts. I forwarded the asset list to Oksana and requested liabilities. Her reply was short. "There are obligations. We will send details." Obligations. That word is never good next to money. The next packet arrived. The apartment had a lien. The equity holdings were shares in a company tied up in litigation. The bank account had a freeze order pending the will contest. And the family trust wasn't a trust like I imagined. It was a complicated holding structure with outstanding loans. My attorney looked at the documents and said, "If you accept heirship, you may inherit not just assets, but obligations. Depending on jurisdiction, you could be stepping into lawsuits." Emily asked, "Could it cost us money?" He didn't say yes. He said, "It could delay everything, could require legal fees, could become a fight." I felt stupid for even imagining paying off the mortgage. Still, I told myself, at least now I knew. We'd investigate, make a decision, and move on. That was my false resolution, thinking information alone was the crisis, not what it would do to my family. The cousins in Ukraine filed a formal challenge, claiming the will was coerced, claiming I wasn't Danilo's son, claiming the DNA test was fraudulent. They demanded a new test, mine, now under court supervision. My attorney said, "If you refuse, it weakens your claim." So I did it. I went to a lab in a strip mall between a nail salon and a smoke shop and swabbed the inside of my cheek. I paid out of pocket. Felt surreal buying proof of who I was with a credit card. While we waited for results, Emily got another call, this time from my mother. Mom asked to speak to Emily alone. When Emily came back into the living room, her face was tight. "Your mom says she handled something years ago," she said. "What does that mean?" Emily swallowed. She said Danilo tried to send money again. A lot. And she didn't send it back. The air left my lungs. "Where is it?" Emily looked at me like she didn't want to answer. "She says she used it to pay off your dad's business debt. The year he almost lost the house." I flashed back to that year. My dad stressed, working extra shifts, me hearing whispers about the loan and the bank, and believing we just tightened our belts. That was twist number 4. The stability I'd been proud of. My dad's steady hand, my childhood home intact, might have been purchased with Danilo's money. The stranger hadn't just entered my life now. He'd already funded it. I confronted my mom in her kitchen. She didn't deny it. She didn't even look ashamed at first, just defensive. "He was going to ruin us," she said, meaning my dad. "The business was failing. He wouldn't tell you. He wouldn't tell anyone." And then that wire came through and I thought, God gave us a rope. "How much?" I asked. Mom's eyes darted away. 75,000. My stomach turned. That wasn't help. That was survival money. And you never told Dad? I asked. She snapped. Would you have? Would he? Men and their pride. Don't, I said, voice sharp. Don't make this about pride when you built our life on secrets. Mom's face crumpled. I was trying to protect you. I realized then that protection can be financial control with a nicer label. Money had been used like a sedative in my family. Calm the panic, keep everyone moving, don't ask where it came from. Emily texted me while I was sitting in my car afterward. The DNA results are in. It's a match. Once the court-certified DNA confirmed paternity, the cousins shifted tactics. They stopped arguing I wasn't his son and started arguing that, as his son, I should also assume responsibility for his debts. They demanded I cover certain family obligations before receiving anything. They implied threats without saying them out loud. Social pressure, legal pressure, the kind of pressure that makes you feel small across an ocean. My attorney warned me, this could drag on for years, and legal fees will pile up. Emily and I argued in our bedroom at night with the door shut. She wanted to accept and fight because even after fees, it could change everything. I wanted to walk away because I couldn't stand the idea of my identity being auctioned in court for money. Then my dad called me. His voice was quiet. Your mom told me about the wire, he said. I gripped the phone. What did you say? He laughed once, bitter. I said, no wonder we didn't lose the house. He paused. Son, I'm not mad you have another father. I'm mad that your mother let money decide what truth we were allowed to live with. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the carpet like it was going to open and swallow me. Part 15. In the end, I accepted heirship, but not because I wanted the money. I accepted because I wanted the lie to stop controlling us. I signed the documents. I filed what was required. The estate process moved forward in slow, grinding steps, and the number shrank as reality took its cut. Attorneys, translators, court fees, taxes, settlement payments. The mid-seven figures became something much smaller by the time anything reached me. But the final unraveling wasn't the money shrinking. It was what the money revealed. My mom admitted she'd been using funds, first the wire, then smaller transfers, to manage my dad's debt quietly for years, even after the crisis passed, because she was terrified he'd fail again. My dad admitted he'd suspected something and chose not to look, because looking would have threatened the life he loved. Emily admitted she'd already mentally spent the inheritance on her mother's medical care and felt guilty for it, like caring had a price tag. And me? I realized my calm wasn't control. It was a blindfold. I'd built my identity around being responsible, but responsibility requires reality. I'd never demanded it. I just balanced whatever numbers were handed to me and called that stability. We didn't buy a bigger house. We didn't quit our jobs. We used the money to pay off debts that had been lurking in corners for years, the ones nobody wanted to name. We set up a modest college fund boost for the kids. We kept living in the same place with the same squeaky stairs because moving wouldn't erase anything. The biggest thing that changed wasn't our bank balance. It was the way I look at my family. The inheritance didn't make me rich. It made me see how money had been quietly steering our choices, what we told each other, what we hid, what we called protection. I still keep my spreadsheets. I still like the comfort of a tidy column of numbers. But now, when everything looks calm on paper, I don't automatically believe it means we're safe. Thank you for staying with me until the very end of this story. I know your time is valuable, and the fact that you chose to spend it here means more than I can put into words. Stories like this aren't just entertainment. They're pieces of real people's lives. They're the things we carry, the things we try to hide, the truths we run from, and the lessons we eventually learn the hard way. If this story resonated with you even a little, I hope you walk away with something deeper than just curiosity. I hope it reminds you that behind every quiet person, behind every responsible face, behind every couple that looks fine from the outside, there can be a storm no one else sees. We all have our battles. We all have our blind spots. And sometimes the smallest crack, an accidental video, a forgotten piece of mail, a moment we didn't plan, ends up revealing everything. I want to thank you not only for watching, but for listening, truly listening. This channel isn't built on flashy drama or made-up twists. It's built on people trying to make sense of their lives, trying to understand where things went wrong, how they fell apart, and how to stand up again when the ground beneath them disappears. So whether you're here because you love real stories, or because something in this one sounded a little too familiar, thank you. Thank you for being part of this space, for supporting creators who choose honesty over perfection, and for giving stories like this a place to breathe. If you want to hear more stories like this, stories about money, trust, betrayal, luck, and the strange ways life can turn on a single decision, make sure to stay connected. Your support allows me to keep telling them. Every like, comment, and share helps more than you think. It tells the algorithm that these stories matter, and it tells me that I'm not talking into the void. Before we close, I want to leave you with something simple. Whatever you're dealing with in your own life, financial stress, relationship trouble, the fear of losing control, you're not alone. You're never as alone as you think. And sometimes the most important step isn't fixing everything at once. It's just being willing to face the truth, even when it hurts. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for giving this story a place to land. Take care of yourself. Take care of your loved ones. And until the next video, stay safe, stay aware, and stay honest.